Alex and I recorded this episode a few days before the 4th of July so that the fireworks didn't get picked up on our microphones. That recording day was July 2nd. And on July 3rd, Michael Madsen passed away. Out of respect for him, his co-stars, and especially his loved ones, we dedicate this episode of the Day Chaser podcast to his memory. So before we begin here, please, I ask you to join me in a moment of silence.
Now, I cannot believe that we have been friends this long and I haven't remembered to tell you this story. I once accidentally went to a cult meeting.
What? Welcome to the Day Chaser podcast. I'm Charles.
And I'm Alex.
And today we are talking about Kill Bill.
Kill Bill is my favorite movie. And you might think, but Alex, you're such a soft, sweet, emo poetry boy. Why do you like the movie that's basically half entrails? Well, because it's not just about samurai swords and bullets. It's a lot about that. But it's actually, I think, a beautiful story about reclaiming the narrative of what a family should be when everything around you is trying to convince you that family is a weapon. You're like, no. Family is, I'm defining it by love and not by pain.
Yeah, Alex and I, we're kind of on a little bit of a family analysis kick when it comes to the last two episodes. In the previous episode, Cowboy Bebop, we talked about how Bebop was like this analysis of how Found Family broke the Bebop crew as a way to help them grow through their individual issues. Not all of them met the challenge. Spike especially, he didn't become what he needed to become to move on from his past. And then after we watched that, we got to talking about Kill Bill, and then there were some family dynamics in there, but they were totally different. And they centered more around how Bill actually weaponizes the very concept of families against the members of the Deadly Viper assassination squad, and especially against Beatrix Kiddo, the bride.
Yeah, because Bebop is no one will say the word family. This is like, how dare you go against the family? It's almost like mafia rules. It's a little different, but it's very much like, oh, you went against dad. You're gonna fucking die. Oh no. Yeah, exactly. And speaking of dad, Bill's toxic dad energy. How do you feel about this? So I love the idea of, because when I watched this movie for almost 20 years, many times. Same. And it is a cool, the surface level narrative is she broke his heart and he reacted so violently that she had to react just as violently back. And I think that is true, but if you read it deeper, Bill is the Deadly Vipers. They're not a cult in the religious sense. No. And they would probably not even say we're a found family. But the fact that they were all utilized to punish someone who dared break away means they are essentially acting as both found family and found family as weaponized cult. So Bill is this sort of Svengali at the top of it who is making all the rules. And he is portrayed like jilted boyfriend, and he is portrayed like father, but he also is he uses manipulative words and pulling strings just as much as he uses, massacring people with literal weapons. Like, I think his code name was Snake Charmer in the Snake list.
That's the code name, and obviously he gave himself the code name because he's the one that founded the Deadly Assassination Squad. So that says a lot about his character. He collects a bunch of snakes and then says he's a snake charmer.
Do you think on like day 3 he was like, so you're Cottonmouth, you're Black Mamba, I'm Snake Charmer? You think there was like one extra guy who was like, yeah, I'm out. I just wanted to like Glock some people and maybe get some dominoes afterwards. I'm good.
Probably. Good. He probably named them after. It's just like, Bill, what about that guy? He's like, yeah, he's Corn Snake.
You think there was like a Reservoir Dogs like, wait, why do I have to be Corn Snake? That one sucks.
Mr. Brown, Mr. White, Mr. Blonde, Mr. Blue, Mr. Orange, Mr. Pink.
Why am I Mr. Pink?
Because Cobra's on some other job. You're Corn Snake.
Yeah, no, Bill is 100% a very toxic dad. Well, Bill himself had 3 dads. None of them great people. Maybe Hattori Hanzo was probably the best of them all, but if he treated Bill, if the way that he acted in that restaurant is any indication to how he treated Bill, then he probably treated Bill horribly. The way that he treated his sole employee at the restaurant. So there's a chance that Bill learned how to be a father from a combination of the nurture of having 3 male role models, each of them leading him down these horrible paths of killing and death and crime, and then the nature of him basically just being a sociopath and not caring enough to do anything about it. And it's like one of those, it's like something that happens in society every day. If you're in a society that rewards your terrible habits, it kind of also halfway incentivizes them. So if you're like a sociopath that gets to the very top of a major corporation, then in your mind, being a sociopath is good, and then you want to protect this bad thing. It's a similar thing could have happened to Bill.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's going on here is he had 3 bad. Hanzo's the best one, it seems, because he has some semblance of regret. Pai Mei is just up on a mountain being a psychopath.
Yeah.
And then Esteban Vallejo is a violent, horrible abuser of women pimp. And so, like, I bet it was a combo of the 3 worst dads and they got you picked. You know when you see 2 guys fight on the train and someone's like, you picked the right one, man. It's probably that. It's like, this was the guy you don't want to give 3 toxic sword dads to, but he got all toxic sword dads.
Yeah, and then the way Hattori Hanzo reacts to not only the idea of Bill and the name of Bill, and reacts to Beatrix when she was like, you know, I didn't say sell me a sword, I said give me. He came out of retirement and made her a brand new sword that he felt was the best, sharpest sword he ever made, just because he was part of the reason Bill was a killer. And the level of guilt that this man expresses, where he can't even say Bill's name. I mean, he's dropping dishes, he's writing his name in the frost of windows. Like, something horrible must have happened that he feels is associated with him. He must look at Bill and think, I adopted this boy and turned him into a monster. It's like a Batman situation, but if Batman made all of the Robins evil by accident.
I just realized how emo writing something in the frost of a glass window is. Like, because like a couple months ago, like I was going through a real gnarly heartbreak, I referred to it, but like you would ask me, how are you? And I would tell you, I wouldn't be like, and just, it's just like still sad. Like, it's very emo, and I love it.
I mean, that was, you know, that early 2000s edginess. You had to have that. That was everywhere. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was in the water.
It was in the water. You had
like
emo.
It was like fluoride.
Had emo music. You had the long drapey Matrix style dusters. Everybody was wearing black all the time. Nobody smiled. Everything had new metal soundtracks. It was crazy.
Yeah. Everyone had a government mandated copy of Spirited Away issued to them in 10th grade. It was 2003 was a very interesting time to be alive.
Very interesting time.
But yeah, because like one of the things that I think Kill Bill does that's interesting is it's everyone thinks about it as this excess movie because visually it is, for sure.
Yes.
But in terms of its lore, it almost takes, not full John Wick where it's the simplest it can be, you killed my dog, therefore I'm out of retirement, but it takes the I dared leave, he killed everybody, I'm back for revenge. Like it goes toward the simpler side of the lore setup. Yeah. And so we never find out like how big was this assassination squad? How many untold masses did they kill? Were they a sharpshooter guy? Like we see a couple of them. Or we see Oren take somebody out, but we don't know if that's on Bill's orders. We just know that everybody's good at it.
Yeah.
But if he's like, oh, what have I done? That means either Bill killed people a lot, or he killed them very, very, very evilly. And either one makes this man's name. He becomes like the Voldemort of this guy's little world. He's just like, oh no, she said the thing.
Yeah.
Time to get the window glass.
So when it comes to Bill as a toxic dad, if you broke that down into 2 elements, that being toxic and dad, you think about like how conditional his love is.
Yeah.
And how it you know, like the dad thing is obvious in the movie. Like it's very, very obvious. The whole father figure / like you said, jilted lover thing is obvious. What's not so obvious, and I only caught this later, was the sibling rivalry between the members of the Deadly Vipers, which is interesting because one of the members of the Deadly Vipers is Bill's brother, Bud, and he is treated like one of Bill's sons or one of his children. And I think that's part of the reason why Bud hates Bill so much, because Bill doesn't respect Bud. Isn't Bud the older brother too?
I don't think so. He definitely looks younger.
Yeah, he might. Okay, he might be.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember that 100% either.
You bring up something really interesting, which is a lot of the, if not all of them, a lot of these relationships feel not just like, oh, it's wrong because they murder people, but wrong because like that's fucked up. Like he's the father figure, and also he's sleeping with Beatrix, and the age difference is noticeable, and so that doesn't feel like especially in those, he's teaching her the legend of Pai Mei. She reads like teenager in those scenes, and we don't know what's happening, but you can tell it's not going to end up anywhere good. And then I always felt it was implied he's with Elle Driver after Beatrix isn't around.
Yes.
Just based on how they talk to each other, but it still reads like you tell me what to do, and hence it's the dad thing. And then there's his biological brother, and he's still like, but I'm the dad. I'm like, it's like every relationship is toxic, not just through control, but through like, oh, this is not good that he's decided he's multiple streams being crossed for these people.
Yeah. Well, Bill's whole sense of family and connection and relationship, it all focuses around the core of possession. Yeah. Like he feels like he possesses people, and like he feels like he owns these people, and all of his love as a result, even his brotherly love. I mean, he gave Bud a Hanzo sword. He didn't even give Oren.
He engraved it.
He engraved it. He didn't even give Oren a Hanzo sword. And you could tell that she was very offended by that when Beatrix said that she went and got herself one, that she never got one. I mean, even Vernita Green, what was it? Vernita Green, Janie Bell, Copperhead. That was her name. So Copperhead, even she was offended at just the idea that she wasn't called Black Mamba, which makes sense because she was black. But still, it's like Bill does this thing. Like, you know, you've ever heard of the concept of love languages?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so Bill's love languages is gifting. Like my love language is also gifting, but he does this thing where when he wants to express love to someone, he gives a gift to them that comes in many forms. Like it come in the form of a Hanzo sword. It could come in the form of free lessons from Pai Mei, that sort of thing. But even his gifts are dangerous. They're weaponized.
And he's really buying something. He's buying control.
Yeah, he's buying control. He's buying ownership. Like he gives Bud a sword, and like we don't know if Bud is a trained martial artist at all. We have no idea. He gives Beatrix Kiddo access to Pai Mei. That was one of the worst experiences that she had. If she didn't have the willpower she did, she would have never survived that. And there's no telling what he did for Oren Ishii or for Janie Bell. Which I think is that the whole crew?
Yes. Janie Bell was her fake name. It was Vernita Green.
Vernita Green was the real name. Yeah. So
yeah, but it's a small group.
Yeah. So it was Bud, Vernita, Oren, Beatrix, and
Elle Driver.
And Elle, that's what I'm missing. Okay, so yeah, like leading back into the whole ownership thing, he sees people as these interchangeable objects. Like Elle is also a tall blonde who's very violent. She's very different from Beatrix, but Bill probably just slotted Beatrix out for Elle because in his mind, I lost a trophy, this belongs to me. I'll just shine up this similar one until I get the old one back or until I destroy it.
Yeah, it's and what you brought up something interesting in that it's never fully elaborated on, but I like the read of she's like, well, he never gave me a sword. He gave one to his dickhead brother who just listens to Johnny Cash and shoots rock salt at people. I should have been Black Mamba, but it's like, is he giving them mixing up the gifts on purpose to fuck with each of them?
It could be.
I love that read, that it's literally, because obviously he's buying something with his for his narcissistic control. The idea that he's like making sure the other ones see it.
Yes.
I think that's I don't know if that's intended, but I really like that takeaway from it.
Here's how I see it. If Bill wasn't doing games like that, if he gave them the order to, beat Beatrix to death while she's pregnant at her own wedding, they probably wouldn't have done it if their bonds were too positive, even if he did control them. But the fact that he controlled the whole group by making them hate each other and have their own different versions of love and or respect or fear for him, that is what allowed them to be so violent against each other. Because that's what happens when narcissistic parents have multiple kids. Those children are in a vulnerable position where they don't feel like they can take out their frustration with their parent on the parent. They won't confront the dad and or mom that is making them all feel bad, because that's the adult. They're on a whole other level. So they attack each other. And only years later, typically when children of narcissistic parents are investigating the trauma that they all share, the collective trauma, only then do they realize that they were not only playing into a game, they were playing into a game that was purposely designed by the toxic parent, by the toxic dad or toxic mom as a system of control.
Yeah, I listened to the Behind the Bastards, like 4 or 5 parts on RFK Jr.
Yeah.
And the first episode is just, why are the Kennedys generally insane? And the answer is they are taught this sort of family ethos of, you have to win achievement for in the eyes of your parents, because therefore you will win achievement in the eyes of the dynasty and hence example for the world. So basically, like, Joe Kennedy just kind of taught his kids, whether he told them to directly or just by the traps that he set up, they started to just take more and more insane risks to outdo each other. Yeah. Which is why all of them are insane, and then it eventually ends up in one who's like, vaccines don't cause autism, and 83 kids in Samoa die, and he's threatening cops with hawks and stuff, like, which is actually the one cool thing RFK Jr. ever did. But it's really it's a lot to put on kids that it literally makes them not like each other, because it is unsafe to not like the parent who's doing this. Yeah. And the more you can make them think it's their idea, or it's a reaction to, it's a lateral friction, the more control, it's divide and conquer. The more the toxic parent has the real control.
I'm really glad you said that, because that actually leads us into the next thing I wanted to talk to you about. The fine line between family and cult. Bill runs the Deadly Vipers more like a cult than a business. But interestingly enough, if you understand cult, because when I was in my early 20s, I actually wrote a screenplay called How to Start a Religion. And the whole thing, the idea is that this kid accidentally starts a cult, and it just blows up because of the progress of social media. Like, one of the lines in the screenplay I wrote was like, he got 500 years worth of cult progress in about 5 years because of Facebook. Yeah, and it was a pretty good screenplay. It was the first one I wrote, but I noticed in my research, like, what's really important, the reason I bring this up, is that when I was researching for that screenplay, I found out that there's a lot of different kinds of cults. Like, when you initially think of a cult, you think Manson family, Jonestown, Heaven's Gate,
Wild Wild Country.
I might have to bleep that out.
But I hope when you bleep it out, you just put me saying Wild Wild Country.
I think I'll do that.
Different cult.
So yeah, you think about like the social scripting when it comes to how a cult looks like one thing, but there's a such thing as a fitness cult. There are corporate cults. There are essentially, a cult is any grouping of humans that basically takes negative advantage of that group. And the point of the screenplay that I wrote is that, and I heard the quote from somewhere, the idea is that a cult is everybody worships one guy and does everything he says and everything, and they love him and choose him over their lives, and we're willing to hurt each other and kill each other, hurt themselves for him. The difference between that and a religion is that in a religion, that guy's dead. Yeah.
Now, I cannot believe that we have been friends this long and I haven't remembered to tell you this story. I once accidentally went to a cult meeting.
What?
So, when Roe got taken away by the Supreme Court,
Yes.
I went to there was a protest in Union Square.
Yes.
And I didn't know who was running it. I didn't know anything. I just thought, time to take to the streets. They're doing a fascism.
Sure.
And so I go to this protest, and I think I still have a picture of this because the New York Post took a photo of it, so we can share that on social media if we want.
Okay.
But so there's speakers coming up, and they're saying like this next speaker has been with the Revolutionary Communist Party and worked with the leader Bob Avakian. They kept saying Bob Avakian.
Huh.
And I was like, Revolutionary Communist Party, that sounds right up my alley. And the guy gives a speech about healthcare and how this is just the first step in taking away all sorts of other rights. It's not the ultimate goal, it's the first door. All the stuff I agree with. And they keep saying, and the next one keeps saying Bob Avakian, and the third, I was like, who's this Bob Avakian fella? And at this point, I'm vibing with all the lefty stuff so much that I'm like, maybe I should look up this Bob Avakian fella.
Oh,
and so
no.
I go home. I don't, thankfully. I then, like I mentioned, Behind the Bastards, I follow that guy, the host, Robert Evans, on social media because he is a journalist and he highlights a lot of stories that are from like, a lefty anarchist bent about, stuff going on in Ukraine and Palestine and things like that. And
yes.
he retweeted someone saying like, oh, everybody protesting in New York, you got to watch out. The Revolutionary Communist Party is a cult that latches on to other protests and turns them into cult meetings. So they just they go for an issue that they agree with, and then they make it all about that. They're like a parasite of other protests.
Oh my
and it's
God.
like a problem. It's like a problem. And they are a cult where this, I don't know anything really about this Bob Avakian guy, but I believe it's then you start giving money to them because you think it's for the cause, but really it's just for this guy. So I accidentally almost joined a cult.
Wow. First of all, that is horrifically clever in the worst ways. Like to be co-opting a group that already exists in order to pick off of it for a group.
It's
wow.
marketing.
It is marketing. Like I haven't heard of a sales funnel that efficient in a while. Like that's monstrous. Geez, even Bill wasn't doing a sales funnel. We don't really know how he recruited all the Vipers, but he's definitely running a cult. I mean, it's very culty because everything he gives them all new names, which is a cult thing, and then it's obviously they don't lose their name, but like they've got it's a little bit of a red flag, if you will. He demands loyalty over individuality. Yes. Clearly, because like my thesis statement for this whole episode is it's not just that the bride left him for some rando, it's that she rejected his entire worldview and therefore she had to be punished. Yes.
And not only did she have to be punished, he took out everybody, if anything, to make an example for the other Vipers and to reassure himself, like, no, if you leave, I will scorch the earth. And that feels cult leadery to me.
No, it is cult leadery, especially when you consider the fact that this was not a gig. This wasn't a job. Like we only like for the Vipers. I mean, like
were they on like W-2? Like how did this?
Yeah.
Or is it a 1099 per capita murder kind of a thing? Like what was their? They had to get paid. They were clearly wearing night suits and stuff. But.
Yeah, like the amount of times that the Kill Bill movies between Volume 1 and 2 openly talk about the actual jobs that any of the Vipers get, it's very few and far between. I mean, the one, which one was the one that Oren did? She wasn't even a Viper when she did that, when she assassinated that dictator.
Yeah, she was an assassin who got funneled into Bill's orbit.
Right. Yeah, she was an independent contractor. And then she got funneled in after the fact, but you never figure out exactly what kind of.
She was an assassin influencer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you don't figure out what kind of work that this man was giving them. I mean, it's probably why they disbanded. Like he probably just financially terrible. I mean, his house is nice. Maybe you know what? Actually, that's a good point. Bill's house is really nice. Bud lives in a trailer. They probably broke up just off of the money.
But it wasn't just Beatrix left and we had to scorch the wedding massacre. It was like, hey, can we get benefits? And he was like, no, swords.
Yeah. It's
taking away your snake names.
Yeah. That's probably why Bud was so upset. It's like, you live in a beautiful, like ranch type place with a little girl that you're raising, that you kidnapped out of a woman's body, that you put in a coma, that you made me put in a coma. And I live in a trailer and I work, where did he work at? Like a bowling alley strip club?
It was a strip club, defo. I don't remember if it was a bowling alley too, but it was a strip club.
Yeah, he was working at this awful strip club. It was hot in there. It was so hot, it made the theater hot when I was watching the movie. Like, it was gross in there. And then all he got was a trailer, a sword, and some some what he chewing on? Some chewing tobacco?
Oh, he's chewing that whole movie, ain't he? It's definitely some kind of a, because he spits it in her face, and it was really Tarantino spitting in Uma's face, which is he's a weird guy.
Wait, Quentin Tarantino spat in her face?
Yes. So Quentin Tarantino, every once in a while, he gets this thing where he's like, "Oh, I want to do, like in Inglourious Bastards when Diane Kruger gets choked. Those are Quentin Tarantino's hands choking her, because he's like, it never looks real." And that to me is a little weird, because A, you could just maybe say what you want out of the stunt person.
Yeah.
B, those hands do not look like Hans Landa's hands, so it takes me out of the scene for different reasons. But he just really wanted to choke her, he says, for cinematic reasons. She okayed it, but I don't know. And then the chewing tobacco scene, that is Quentin Tarantino spitting in Uma Thurman's face. And it's starting to add up that maybe a little bit of a weird guy.
He's a
weird guy.
He seems like a weird guy that loves feet and hates women, or loves women's feet and hates women, because you never see guys' feet really.
Oh well, there are a lot of male foot shots. I will push back on that. They're not dirty like bare feet, but like if you watch all of his movies, like feet are focused on, even in like Bill's feet walking up to the bride. But like clearly the women, it's like, I want to see the toes. I want to, like, you're right. There is a difference.
Yeah. When it's a man's feet, it's always like a well-shoed foot,
Yeah.
like almost like Quentin. But when it's a woman's feet, it's like, you know, sandals and bare feet and a totally inappropriate situation. Like it's always weird with him.
Yeah, and like to the point where in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, there is a shot where Brad Pitt is with Margaret Qualley. From the Death Note movie, if you remember her, as one of the Manson girls, and she puts her feet up in the dashboard, and her feet are bigger than her in the frame, and I'm like, surely this man has just lost his mind at this point. surely this should have maybe heard the word no once or twice in the editing room.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
Quentin Tarantino.
You know the meme of like, oh, director reveals his fetish. I'm like, well, there's that, and there's yelling it through a megaphone.
Yeah.
Which our boy seems to be doing. But.
Yeah. That's what he's doing. He's kind of got a little bit of a cult thing going on himself. In a way, he's almost confessing his way of seeing the world through Bill when it comes to that sort of cult stuff. Can you speak to the whole cult thing a little bit more when it comes to Bill?
I like that the idea of, it's not just that Bill, you know, he can't, again, like we talked about in Chainsaw Man, he can't just go, I demand loyalty, and like shove a finger in your face and you go, oh shit, okay. He's gotta snake charm you.
Yes.
He's gotta make you feel at home or comfortable, like, yeah, man, we go around the world blowing up fucking, people's heads, and you get millions of dollars and all, and you can buy all the blow you want. That must be awesome. But what he's doing is building mythology.
Yes.
He's laying the groundwork for, you know, why you have all those nice things, and you know what'll happen if I take away those nice things.
Yes.
So it's not just that he, like, I think what's cool about how Bill works is, and again, I don't know if I'm reading way too much into this, but I think this is a richer text than maybe even Quentin Tarantino realizes. He externalizes the violence that he is doing with his words. If you can always point to like, yep, see how you aimed that gun and that man's head blew up? That's violence. But we control the violence.
Yes.
Really, he's controlling the emotional violence, though. And so it's a way of almost distracting and putting the violence goes to outsiders. We control the flow of violence. But really in that is an inherent threat. But I control the violence that we do. And if it turns against you, it's going to be really, really bad. So he uses the mythology and the symbols and the roles the way a cult leader does, because he can't, you know, and like I said, it's for this religious devotion that he needs to the idea that he can control everything, that his narrative of what family is must be right. And if it isn't, somebody has to die so that it will become right.
I noticed that cult leaders, a lot of them tend to have abandonment issues, and part of the reason why they become cult leaders is because they want to control people's ability to leave them. And they become these people, like I said, they collect people. They don't see people as humans. They see them as objects and these precious items that they can never lose. And Bill, that's exactly what he does. By the way, sidebar, maybe not a sidebar. Can we talk about the fact that he named them all after snakes, and usually snake references are references to not trusting people?
Yeah, I mean, it's sowing distrust in the group, and it's a double-sided thing of like, all those names are pretty rad.
Yes.
But also, if you think on some level I am a snake, that is self-hatred.
Yes, it is.
Maybe you've earned it by being a murderer, but like, it's a way of keeping you in your place by making sure that you're never, if you can truly internalize that idea, I am a snake.
Yeah.
And you look in the mirror, you're never going to see anything other than a snake. And that is control. If someone gets in your head and goes, and you know what happens to snakes, they get charmed or they get their heads cut off. Like,
yeah, and even to that point, a lot of cults, they do this thing where they'll pick a theme. Have you ever noticed that?
I know only about like 2 or 3 cults. I know a lot about the Manson family, but the theme there seemed to be, I'm mad I wasn't in the Beach Boys. So I don't.
Yeah.
You probably know more about this than I do specifically.
Yeah, so like they'll pick a theme. So like, I think the theme of Jonestown was like togetherness and community, and then like the theme of the Manson family was race war, and then. So the theme of Bill's cult of the Deadly Vipers was antitrust, but it's hard to convince people to openly distrust each other without a bit of indoctrination. So I think the whole snake charmer thing was Bill's way of saying, I'm going to gather a group of people that I can exploit as being these deadly assassins for this business that I want to run. But in order for me to control them so they don't gang up on and kill me as these highly trained assassins, I'm going to make them not trust each other. Then, as a way to further indoctrinate and like not just indoctrinate, but to maintain the theme of distrust, I'm going to name them all after snakes, and I'm going to call myself the Snake Charmer, because he didn't name himself after a snake. He could have been Cobra, like King Cobra, but he didn't name himself after a snake. He said he's a Snake Charmer, which is, it seems like an egoic way of him saying, I'm going to turn you all against each other, and the only one that all of you will trust in this group is me. And I feel that I'm the only one that can control you all, even way after you've all moved on with your lives. And that's exactly what happened. L Driver was basically the only one that was around him, and it's only just now occurring to me. You think she lived with Bill and Beatrix's daughter, at the same time? She probably mistreated BB.
I've always wondered how much is L around, because we see Bill and BB, they're on the run because I think they know that Beatrix is after them.
Yes.
And they've just retreated as far away, I think. But L, I mean, is she stepmom? Like, what is she? Is BB aware of her? They never address it, but there's a really fucked up sitcom in there somewhere.
Yeah.
My one-eyed murderer stepmom. I just thought of something. The whole like indoctrinating and making sure there's distrust.
Yeah. By the way, really quick, viewers, can somebody make a sitcom theme for Beatrice? For BB, Bill, and L Driver all living together.
2.5 snakes.
Yeah, like a Family Matters type sitcom theme, and send that to us. Even some channel art, I would love that. Anyway, go ahead. What will you say, Alex?
I was gonna say, we never find out if this was all of them or just either the ones in the Vipers that he felt were especially talented or especially vulnerable.
Yes.
2 of these people he sent to a violent sociopath to learn Kung Fu.
Yes.
He sent the bride and he sent L Driver.
Yes.
And it seemed like the bride was the better student, but only because she wasn't as defiant, which almost speaks to like a little assent on her part that obviously explodes later in the revenge.
Sure.
But like, he probably sent those people to this guy, and he was like, oh, by the way, like he probably told them both that story, like, hey, he some guy nodded at him and he didn't see it, and it became like a monk massacre. That's how violent this guy is. And he hates Americans, and he hates white people, he hates Japanese people, and he really hates women. And then when he drops the bride off, he comes down the mountain and he's bleeding because they clearly got into like at least a very violent sparring match or something.
Yes.
He's like, yeah, he'll take you. I gotta go.
Yeah.
Where's my oxy?
It's like I'll be back in 8 months. Just got to do some stuff in this Jeep.
Yeah, basically. Gotta go hang out with Bud. He's got the good shit. But so 2 people out of this cult that is only like 4 people, he is sent in this kind of trial by fire. You're gonna become fully mine and fully dehumanizingly snake-like killer, or you're going to die.
Yep.
And that is, it speaks to that will that like some abusive parents have, where you kind of get the feeling like, do they want me alive? And you can even feel that emotionally. Some people are like, do my parents like me when I'm me? Because whenever I'm me, they tend to flip out unless I tell them exactly what they want to hear. So it's almost like that kind of, it mirrors that kind of like, all right, remember how in 300 they say return with your shield or on it?
Yes. Meaning
dead or whatever it is, don't surrender, either victorious or surrender. It's like, well, they're either going to die or they're going to come back ready for my manipulation. And it really speaks to how expendable he views these people.
Yeah.
And like, I also think that he has some care for them. Clearly, if he was willing to flip out that much on the bride, I do feel there is a little bit heartbroken ex-boyfriend in there, but it is mainly the toxic narrative thing. And he's clearly kind of a good dad. He's got the Bob Dylan thing where he sucks to everyone except his flesh and blood. But maybe not as extreme on the Dylan sense, but you know what I mean.
Bill is 100% a Bob Dylan fan. I mean, look at how that man dresses.
Oh my God, that man blasts blonde on blonde while he's torturing people to death, for sure.
I mean, that man is so Bob Dylan out. It's like he heard Bob Dylan's tracks and went, yeah, he's awful. I love that.
It's like he heard blood on the tracks and he's like, yeah, I bet you want blood on that woman's saddle. And you're like, oh, no. You're not supposed to agree with the narrator on this. Yeah. I think Bob wants you to, but I wouldn't say that you should.
Bill comes off like a dude who went to one of Bob Dylan's concerts and handed him a card backstage with a little snake on it, said, if you ever need me to take anyone out.
Oh boy. Oh my God. I want to hear that voicemail that they leave the phone tag those men will play with. Like, hey Bob, I'm just calling you back. I heard that the Grill Marcus has been talking shit in Rolling Stone, and then it's the 70s, so Dylan calls and he's like, I realize that the real assassin is our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Bill, have you accepted Jesus into your heart? Because the real snake charmer is Satan himself. And then, but who stops calling who back first? That's what I want to know.
It was
who stops calling who back?
That's a good point. It was probably, what it was? It probably would have been Bob Dylan because he would have just got bored eventually.
Yeah.
It could have been that because Bill dresses like him, and it's like Bob was probably like, okay, I'm done with him. He wants to kill people and everything. I just want to make music. I
think that is how that would have gone. But point being, Bill 1000% plays stuck inside a mobile with the Memphis Blues again while like actively pulling out a man's throat. That has happened, and the music is probably so his daughter doesn't wake up. Probably.
As she's like, killing goldfish. As she's killing goldfish in the next room.
You're tangled up in blood. Ah! Phoebe's like, what was that? Nothing, sweetie. Turns it up.
Finish your Fruit Loops.
It was a record. It was the record skipped. The vinyl's old.
Okay, you made an interesting point about the El Paso wedding chapel massacre. You said it was an inversion of the family ritual.
Yeah.
Could you talk more about that? Because I think that was such an interesting idea you came up with.
I'm kind of obsessed with this moment in just in the lore, because on the one hand, it's the most successful the bride is ever fucked over. Her chances for leaving are screwed over. She thinks her daughter is dead. Her fiance is killed that I don't think she has any attachment to. A point being, innocent bystander. The whole church is killed, even the organ player. it's really, like I said, Bill is going scorcher. It's not just, how dare you try to leave? I'm going to take you out. It's like, he's sending a reassuring message to himself.
Yes.
That this is what happens when you cross Bill. And also he's saying to the other Vipers, like, this is what happens when you fuck with me.
Yes.
But also, that was 4 years ago, and they've all drifted apart. So it also is kind of treated like it was their last hurrah of being a cult. So it's almost like, I'm fascinated by cults or families or whatever that are so slavishly devoted to these narcissistic manipulative rules that literally have the seeds for their own group destruction sown into them. Like, I've heard about people, like I've known people who their family hates outsiders. And I don't just mean that in a racist way, they get that too, but I mean like in a, like you get a boyfriend and they just make up reasons to not like them.
Because they were already not in the family?
Because they're not in the family, and they don't want incest, but they want to punish you for daring to not basically die alone under the family's auspices. But what's so crazy about that to me is, if you don't do that, the bloodline dies.
Yeah. So
it is less about we need to continue this dynasty, this we're so great we need to live forever. But it's more like, we are 5 people and we're dying under this roof and these rules. And if you dare do that, you will be punished. You might not be excommunicated, but it is sent to signal that you do not leave this house. And I've known people who've had family members that are like, yeah, my aunt just like didn't ever leave home. She never really could cognize why, but you could tell she was afraid to just have someone else in her life because that would go against the family. Something in the water was saying, if you start another family, technically, that is betrayal. And so, like, it's not just that, because I think if there is a version of this story where they want to play it like if Bill had a happy ending, and it does, but you know what I mean, in terms of not getting so toxic that it needed revenge.
Sure.
Let's say they're assassins, but like, he's like, oh yeah, you know what? You're pregnant. Don't raise the kid around this shit. Go. We wish you well. Going no contact is the healthy thing here. Do not let your kid. We've done our job if the kid never knows what a deadly Viper assassination squad is. But he can't do that. And we don't even know if Bill wants BB to be an assassin, but I think he definitely just wants her to be in his orbit, because he clearly can't handle when anyone leaves. He cannot do it. So that's why I say that when family becomes cult, because it's not just about the family, because if it was about the family, we would continue the family at all costs.
Sure.
It would be, you got to get married because otherwise there's no more of us, and that's toxic in its own way. But it's, how dare you leave the family to start another family? And it's more fragile because it's found family, or it would bill itself as found family. But like the wedding, the reason why I love the wedding is they make an example out of Beatrice, and it's supposed to clearly either just be super cathartic for Bill, but probably also make an example of like, this is what happens when you cross Bill. But also, clearly the table now lost one of its legs, and everybody started to drift after that. And I think at a certain point, like, I'm guessing he just didn't have the will to keep them together at that point because he was so upset about what happened. But like, literally, the thing that was supposed to that was part of the destruction, that the violence that kept the cult together, was the violence that marked the end of the cult.
Yes.
And hence the end of the family.
Yeah, it's the end. I like that you said he probably didn't keep them together because he felt so bad about what he did, because both movies start off with him saying that what he did at the massacre, he considers to be a masochistic act. He considers this hurting himself. It's like the whole parent thing where it's like, this is gonna hurt me worse than it hurts you.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like he feels this is. And it's crazy because like when you hear stories about like the aftermath of a person going to the most extreme evil that they can go to, they're a darkly fascinating person to witness, because you see them on the other side of accepting that they are nothing more than a monster. And when you finally see Bill in his house where he lived with BB, you get that vibe. where he has accepted the idea that he will be nothing but this evil thing that he turned himself into that day. Like he was almost reborn when he stepped out of that place that he bathed in the blood of one, the mother of his child, but two, all of these strangers that he didn't even know, perfectly innocent people. And which also, like, it says to me why Beatrix left Bill in the first place. I think the bride was aware of the fact that if her daughter was born under Bill's influence, her daughter would be one of the shiniest, bloodiest trophies that Bill owns. He was gonna raise that girl to be a monster. And I think for her, it was a double consideration, because not only did Bill have the charisma to possess anyone, he also is half responsible for that little girl's DNA. That girl is half Bill. She's potentially, or has the potential to become just as evil as he is if she is raised under his influence. So I think some of her decision to get married to another man and escape Bill and all of that was a way to prevent the horror of what BB could have become. And I think Bill, that part is a bit more obvious, even if you like see all the layers. The thing that's not obvious is I think Bill was aware of Beatrix's thought process. And the reason he did what he did at her wedding was because he was vandalizing purity. The purity that the bride was trying to create around that child, and the sanctity of, people say sanctity of life, that's a very loaded term, but she was trying to create true sanctity of life by honoring that child as they are alive, not just giving birth to them and letting their life be destroyed. She wanted that girl to have a good life after she was born. Bill was the opposite. Bill didn't care if that little girl had a good life. He cared if somebody left him. And he didn't even know that was his daughter, but Bill was a smart dude. He probably figured that it was, but even that didn't matter. Even the possibility of hurting a woman that was pregnant that he cared about did not matter. It just didn't. He, like I said, he was vandalizing something pure because that was the way that he felt family needed to go. That's how he felt he would get his control.
Do you remember that moment in Fight Club when Jared Leto gets his face like rearranged?
Yes.
And they say to Ed Norton, like, why did you go so hard? He goes, I wanted to destroy something beautiful.
Yes.
It's that. It's not just how dare you leave. It's I'm going to spray paint blood so that everyone knows, if only just me knowing that everyone should know, I'm going to remind myself that new narratives do not live here.
Yes.
New family, who's she? I'm going to take it out and what I love about the way Bill, so I love the ending monologue where he gives that whole Superman speech.
Yes.
Because, when I was a kid and I was watching this movie, I was like, well, yeah, she is a killer. He's got a point. And now I have a much better emotional intelligence. I'm like, well, no, I mean, she has killed a lot of people. Clearly she's fine killing people. But his point was always, no matter how fat your ass got, no matter how much barbecue you ate, you're a killer. Yeah. Just like me. And what he's really saying is, I define you. But if that was true, her leaving wouldn't have pissed him off so badly. So he frames it in this way so he can live this mythology that he's like, I had to do it because she was lying to herself almost.
Right.
It's really, 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 really fucked up because you could, and I think the movie bears this out too, because I think it's implied that just BB grows up happy and normal, and they're just watching cartoons and eating, Kaboom cereal, and the bride just cries on the floor going, "Oh my God, it worked!" They get an unabashedly happy ending.
Yes.
Partly why I'm a little bit happy there's no threes, because I don't want them to ruin that, even though I'd watch it in a second. But he's like, you're a killer because clearly you are a killer. But her leaving, and it's heavily implied she never has to kill again, or at least doesn't have to kill all that much, or not for the wrong reasons, means that she is not like them, which is enough to say that she is an outbreak. Like, you and I have talked about this idea of like the genetic outlier.
Yes.
And how species that are going to die out sometimes give a rando healthy example, because otherwise the species will start dying. And families do this too.
Typically, they refer to them as black sheeps. I call them black swans because often the genetic because sometimes the genetic outlier is negative and really is just about breaking a pattern so that the group dynamic that has lasted too many generations can finally end. Sometimes the break in the generational pattern is a person with a couple more issues than everyone else. But sometimes everyone in the family has lots of issues, and then they give birth to someone who does not have their issues and forcibly steers the family in another direction.
Yeah, you get in a family that generation after generation, they just suck.
Yes.
They're selfish, they suck. And then they miraculously have like a daughter who's a saint, and you're like, how?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the bloodline is going, hey, we're gonna die out if all of you are fascists.
Yeah.
Like we gotta make somebody cool, otherwise no one will breed with us.
Yes.
And so I kind of love the sort of meta analysis of what The Bride is doing, because everyone thinks of Kill Bill as it's a blood and guts revenge movie, and if she didn't, like Tarantino said, if she didn't kill Bill at the end, I want my money back. And that is true, and that's fun and visceral and a great popcorn film. I'm not even saying that's a dumb idea to like it. I love that part of it too. But I love the read that The Bride is the, genetic in loose terms because they're a found family, but she is the outsider that would essentially break the pattern.
Yes.
And so therefore the pattern fights back and tries to stamp her out. But because she lived, and because she's like, no, I'm going to kill all of you to make myself feel better, what she's really doing is reclaiming her narrative of what family can be.
Yes.
Because even before she even knows her daughter's back, she's like, well, you tried to make this prevailing manipulation. You should all die for doing that to me, for taking my chance away from me. And then when she finds out BB's alive, it becomes a rescue mission for that dream. And so I kind of love the idea of what The Bride's mission really is. She's not aware of this, I think, but it's the bloodline of love fighting back against the self-destruction of like, no, if you try to stamp out the hope will come back and it will burn your building to the ground. It will kill your 88 guys. It will slice your head off. And it's like, it's like in Jurassic Park, they say nature finds a way.
Yes.
It's like sometimes positivity will do whatever it has to keep people alive. And if your version of keeping people alive is we all die under these rules, it will come back with the bloodiest force that it can. Mm-hmm. And so I love the idea that literally it's love. It's the force of love. It's the force of the family as love narrative, killing the family as weaponizable manipulation narrative. And it's working through her because it's like very much like you can only do this for so long before you have to pay the price. And she is a one-person sword wielding paying the price.
That's a really beautiful thought. The idea that hope will prevail even in the face of abject, horrifying, just resource-armed, intense, intergenerational, interfamilial violence, because Bill's ultimate expression of control and weaponization of family is killing off members of the family. And even he says it, I had all of you beat this woman to death, and then I put a bullet in her head and her heart kept on beating. And symbolically, it's like Bill's evil is the strongest tool that he has. And even in the moment where he had somebody dead to rights, it still wasn't enough to get that woman to die. And it still wasn't enough to get her baby to die. Both entities survived that bullet and that beating. BB and Beatrix both survived the wave of Bill asserting himself onto people with his violence and his evil. And it says so much about, because remember, he mentions that heart kept on beating. Well, how did Beatrix take out Bill? The 5-point palm exploding heart technique. She came for his heart because he took her out because he was like, you broke my heart. Then she broke his heart by taking her baby. Then she broke it again by having her find out in the worst way that her baby was alive. So then she came back for his heart the way that he projected onto her. that she broke his. And and again, I don't know if Quentin Tarantino was thinking about this. It'd be great if we could have him on the podcast one day, or not, because I don't really want him to find out what my wife's feet look like. But
Yeah, Evelyn, you got great feet. Have you seen Lady Snowblood? You're like, no, that's how it starts.
Yeah, that's it. That's how it starts. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Anyway, subscribe to the Patreon pluggables. Anyway, we're done. We're done here, Quentin. But I'm a fan. I don't care.
But yeah, so like it's such a beautiful expression of the shattering of familial patterns. Like, have you ever been to one of the people? I mean, I know you are, and like we both are the kind of people where we were born into abusive families that had generations of abuse and self-destruction and all kinds of horrible stuff, alcoholism, all of that. But if you happen to be one of these kids who was born into that, and you just go like full speed in the other direction, determined to be a better person, first of all, that comes with a lot of pain. But second of all, the people that you were running from, they're not going to be happy with you. They're going to try to come after you and try to get you to lower yourself to their level, because if somebody with their blood does right, it says that they could have been better. And they've already committed to not being better. They've committed to the evil that they're most comfortable with. And they don't want anything more than that. I can relate to that heavily. I'm sure plenty of the listeners can relate to that heavily. And I don't want to speak for you, Alex. You give us some insight on that.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to, like I said, some families do not realize they are death cults.
Yes.
They do not want you to live happily ever after and have your own kids so they can have nice grandkids. They want you on the couch until your heart gives out. And they'll die before you, but they want to make sure that when they do, they live rent-free in your head. So now you live in the house and you're just like, I'm alone. And they just, I don't know. I don't see the appeal. Even on, like I said, on a genetic level, I don't know why some people grow these families that seem to be intent on dying out under, it's like, under like life being subservient to the satisfaction of causing that pain. I don't understand it, but life can only be pushed so far before it starts to think of what, if only by the nature of chance. That goal will never be easy to stamp out hope, because as they say, hope springs eternal, and in Kill Bill, sometimes that spring is blood out of a human neck. So